here with another one of our awesome videos here at our Civil War camp. Last time, Ranger Jake talked about cleanliness, and you guys were able to build a drum. It was some good stuff. Right now, we've got something a little bit more entertaining. We're actually going to be talking about how Civil War soldiers were able to entertain themselves, because it wasn't all about fighting, right? I mentioned before that these soldiers sometimes were in the war for the better part of 3 years, right? So oftentimes they were marching, they were just kind of hanging out in camp waiting for something to happen. And it was no different here at Kennesaw Mountain. In fact, the soldiers were here for about 2 weeks, and a lot of the time they were just here in camp. Not much fighting really going on. So Ranger Jake is taking a nap here. I'm going to wake him up. Wake up. You got some,
What do you want?
you got cards or checkers or something?
Oh, is it game time already?
It looks to be about that time, yep.
Oh.
Chow's going to be served here in a little bit.
Well, all right.
You don't want the officers to think that you're sleeping on the job.
That's probably a good call. You know, you asked me if I wanted to play cards or checkers. I'm kind of partial to checkers, seeing as I won all that money from you last time.
Yep, we got a debt to settle here.
Now,
So
friends, we talked about, we're just joking about, halfway joking about money and winning money. A lot of the soldiers did gamble, and we know that that's nothing that you can do if you're under the age of 18 here in the United States of America. So we were halfway joking, but it was serious. The soldiers did gamble. Now, what we laid out on this green wooden box here, I told Ranger James, is I am partial to checkers, and some of you have heard of the game. They didn't have the full board out there in camp, as you can imagine. So what a lot of the soldiers would do was take a piece of leather or a piece of kind of tough material and paint squares on it and make their own checkerboard. So what I've got here is a piece of leather that has kind of burnt in or darker squares to make the checkerboard. And of course you can be either black or white, or in this case we have a little cloth bag here with our wooden checker pieces, brown or white. And checkers is one of the easiest games to play at camp, because all you needed was you got your board and you have your pieces. So, I'm sorry, here, I'm getting my pieces set up. So I've got some little wooden discs here, white and brown wood. And I'll just set up our board here. We're not going to go through a whole game of checkers, or really any of the game of checkers, because I'm sure y'all all know how to play it.
And Ranger Jake cheats.
Ranger Jake does not cheat. Ranger James is just joking. I'm serious, folks. He's just mad because I won last game.
Look, I'm already cheated. I got one less.
Now, we get through this game of checkers. Ranger James is one of his favorite things to play that he's good at, better at, is cards. And that was another one of the soldiers' favorite games. So as we're sitting around here, again, we're sitting at camp. We've got our tent lined up here where I was taking my nap. Ranger James and I are still kind of in our leisure wear. We've got our undershirts on, our blue pants, and I just pulled out of my pocket. I stole them from Ranger James to make sure that he didn't stack the deck, put extra pieces in there. I'll let him cut it. These are just your basic playing cards. These are kind of a cardboard, kind of tannish white material with the suits on there. I'll let Ranger James shuffle those up. So the soldiers, again, as Ranger James was mentioning, it got really boring at camp. So playing these games to pass the time was one of their favorite things to do. While Ranger James is shuffling those and making sure not to cheat, I'll show you some of their other favorite things, and that was reading. So not all of the soldiers in camp were literate or could read very well. So in that case, they would find someone that could and kind of get together in a group, and maybe one person would read a book to several of them. And some of the more popular things to read, I've got 2 books in my hand, 2 paperback books. One of them is a prayer book. So pocket Bibles and small books of prayers kind of aimed at soldiers and scriptures aimed at soldiers were very popular, as you may imagine, in the battlefield, as well as was fiction. So a lot of people like adventure. Even though some of these guys were actually living what some would consider an adventure, they would love to read some of these books. The book I'm holding in my hand here is called The Hunters. It's a really neat book that they could get. It's kind of stained and dirty. It's been at camp for a long time. Maybe the person who was reading it has read it over and over again. And last but not least, we have, of course, you've got to keep up with the current events. There was no Apple or Google News back then, so we had to rely on newspapers. I'm holding in my hand a copy of a newspaper that was from July of 1864. So that would have been a little bit after the battle here. We've got General Grant on the cover, and this is a Harper's Weekly newspaper. So newspaper was very popular because a lot of times the soldiers, can you imagine? So the soldiers, some of the ways they knew where they were going, if they were privates or soldiers that didn't have a lot of interaction with their commanding officers, they might not know what the bigger picture was happening until they read a newspaper or heard a rumor about it. So that was just one of the other things that they would do to pass the time. Ranger James, you got those cards settled up?
Yep, think so.
I'm going to deal us out a game, and while I'm doing that, why don't you tell them about one last thing. What did you do for fun here?
So the most important thing that you could do as a Civil War soldier that's really helped us out in our jobs here as interpreters of this battlefield is write letters home. And oftentimes these letters would survive the hundreds of years in the possession of the family members that they were sent to. And they tell the story of kind of what the soldier is going through from a first-hand perspective. It's from these details that we're able to gain insight into how the battles came about, how the war was fought, and all these little different things like what we're talking about right here. It's because they detailed them in their letters. Now, back then, of course, they didn't type everything up, so you had to write in long form using a pen. Usually they would have fountain pens or pencils that they would be able to use. And we even have an example from a Union soldier that was writing a letter not too far from where we're sitting at right now, where he actually pressed the paper up against where they kept the ammunition. And he mentioned it in his letter home to his mom that, oh, I'm sorry that the letter's so dirty with some of the black powder. I was using that to bear down on. So interesting stuff. So letters were very important to soldiers, both going out and also coming in. They really look forward to this correspondence, to hearing from their family members back home.
Very good. The letter that Ranger James is holding right here is actually really cool and is a copy of an actual letter written from a soldier from this battle.
You can see Kennesaw Mountain right there.
Yep. And so one of the cool things that you could do as well, and if you want to read some of these letters, Kennesaw Mountain has a lot of copies of these things. So you can always come up and ask a ranger or make an appointment and see what some of these soldiers were writing and talking about. So it was really, really neat. Well, with that, Ranger James, we'll go ahead and start our card game, and we'll sign off from you guys. This will probably be our last video with you talking about camp life between us and the librarians. We hope that we showed you some of the interesting things that the soldiers would have done. The librarians have given you some fun crafts and some fun things to do at home. And with that being said, we will hopefully see you at the mountain soon. And I know that hopefully some of the libraries will be open for at least curbside service or for some limited services soon as well. So that being said, guys, we hope you had a wonderful spring break with us. We thank you for joining in, and we'll see you later.